While I'm working on other projects, I decided to do a little filler series for you guys. Worst customers as a movie theater employee. These are personal stories from me and my experience with really bad customers and really bad people all around. I know I've said in the past I don't like doing multi-part series, but this just seems like fun. And you can watch each of them kind of as a standalone, but I'll still put part 1, part 2, that kind of thing. So today is part 1. This is the first customer I ever had. I was just out of training, I'd barely been on a register. Someone ordered a large popcorn and wanted popcorn fresh out of the popcorn popper. So I'd taken his money, put it in the drawer, and gave him his change, which you're not supposed to do until you've completed the order. As I was getting it out of the popper, someone told me that's a health code violation, you can't do that. Weird. And whenever I told the guest that I made a mistake, they flipped out and called me an idiot and demanded their money back. It was my fault, but he was just mean. Worst customers I've ever had as a movie theater employee, part 2. Cowboy Hat Guy. We called him Cowboy Hat Guy because he wore a cowboy hat. All the time. He also looked me dead in the eye while I was handing him a ticket and said, "Straight white males deserve the same scholarship opportunities as gays, women, and minorities." He also left a movie because there were too many black people in it. Not watching it, just in the movie. And then this happened. I was working the concession stand and he was approaching me to order something. And then a black woman got right in front of him with all of her kids and started ordering. I was afraid there was going to be some kind of altercation he was going to start. But he stayed really quiet. And then she turns and looks at him. "Anything else, babe?" Then they paid and they kissed. Right in front of me. This racist piece of shit was married to her? What? Worst customers I dealt with working in a movie theater, part 3. Mole Man. We called him Mole Man because he just looked like a mole. But also, he knew our general manager on a first-name basis. So we were always super well behaved around him because we always had this inkling that he probably was gonna go talk to our general manager if he didn't get what he wanted. But the only saving grace in that thought pattern was the fact that our general manager hated this man. So their relationship was purely business. Our manager would give him free tickets, he would advertise for our theater. But because he gave him free tickets, this guy came in all the time. And every time he would come up to one of us and say, "Hey, can you tell your boss that the old fat man is here to talk to him?" Most of the time, he would just hide in the office and say, "I'm in the bathroom, can't make it." I think we all just didn't like the fact that he walked around like he owned the place. Worst customers I ever had as a movie theater employee, part 4. Boost Mobile Guy. This guy would come in and brag about operating both of our Boost Mobile stores in town. But, surprise, he was racist. He always complained about his Northside store having issues with thugs. On top of this, whenever he would come in, he'd immediately go to our police officer security. He would look around, and if we had black employees present in front of the cop, he would yell, "Blue lives matter, black lives don't." This led to many altercations where of course he was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I didn't know." Cop never did anything. Going off of that, he nicknamed all the female employees based on their butt size and a related celebrity known for having a large butt. Kim Kardashian, J-Lo, Nicki Minaj. He would ask these girls to turn around for him only whenever his wife wasn't present. Security was informed, they did nothing. There is no happy ending for Boost Mobile Guy. He is too far gone down his rabbit hole of bigotry. He thinks racism is a good punchline. But there is a happy ending for me in all of this. So my movie theater closed down and I moved on to a different movie theater company. A more liberal movie theater company in town. When I say liberal, they were very left-leaning. They had a stoner week on the week of 420 where they just showed stoner films every single day. A munchie menu. Another thing is they sold merchandise out front, and during the month of June, everything was rainbows for Pride. Boost Mobile Guy actually came to this theater quite a bit in its early days. As soon as the rainbow shirts went up, I never saw Boost Mobile Guy again. I saw his wife a lot with her girlfriends, but never him. I really hope that she gets away from him. Worst movie theater customers, part 5. Let's talk about the sexist. We only dealt with this guy once, but it was me and a female coworker who were working one night. And this guy came up wearing a MAGA hat and an American flag leather jacket. Just letting you know, because the stereotype for that kind of attire rings true in this situation. So she was the one he came up to and started placing his order with. I was helping fill popcorn and sodas. My female coworker asked him, would you like butter on the popcorn, and what drinks would you like? He just stared at her with this angry expression, like, how dare you talk to me like that? What? He didn't answer any of her questions. He wouldn't even hand her the money. He only answered the questions when I eventually asked them, and he handed the money to me. I looked back and I said, she can take it. You went to her register. She's taking your order. He looked pissed. So I'm glad you asked. Before I answer the question, I just wanted to bring up something else. I saw another comment on here that said, this isn't sexist. This is just someone who didn't like her for some weird reason. If you want to argue that, I'll make a different video. I just wanted to say, this is sexist. Anyway, so, the end of this. So both of us didn't say anything else. We just sat there and stared at him until he paid her. He didn't. He just set the money on the counter and just left it there. She completed the transaction, slid the change across the counter, no other words were exchanged. So he went to get napkins, his wife came out of the bathroom, they went to their movie. When they had left the line of sight, my coworker said, hey, I need to go to the back room, I just need to take a break. That was a little intense for me. So I watched her station for about 10 minutes, I let her do what she needed to do. Whenever she came back out, I asked, so we both know what just happened there, right? And she said, yeah, it was a little more intense than usual, but it still hurts. Worst movie theater customers, part 6. Entitled military personnel. Don't get me wrong, I've had great experiences with tons of people who are in the military coming to see the movies. Some places, if you show a military ID, we give you a great discount on tickets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think military personnel have to carry that ID card with them at all times. So that's the problem. Either we have a lot of people who are impersonating the military, or they just don't carry their IDs. I'd like a ticket that's going to be a military discount. I asked to see their military ID. Why do you need to see my ID? I fought for your rights, so you should just let me have it. I don't know if you actually served in the military unless you show me that ID. One dude even tried to impress a date with it. Watch this. 2 tickets? I'm in the military. Cool, do you have a military ID? No. Then I'll just give you a regular price. This fascist hates America. Worst kinds of movie theater customers, part 7. The Google Girls! I made a video on this and hopefully I'll have released it by now, but in summary, don't trust Google for showtimes or even to tell you what movies a theater is playing. Always go to the theater's website directly. With that being said, it was a busy Saturday. These 2 ladies came up to me and asked for 2 tickets to see Magic Mike 2. The problem was, we weren't showing Magic Mike 2. It had been gone for about 5 months. But Google says... So I checked Google, and it wasn't there. I even went to our website just to reaffirm it. So I proved to them that even Google disagreed with them. Well, I'm not happy. Can you give us free tickets to come back so that we can be happy? The word happy was used by my manager all the time whenever he gave out free tickets to unsatisfied guests. So the fact they were using it just told me they had done this before and they were expecting similar results. I told them no, but the manager said yes. Worst movie theater customers, part 8. I know more than you, Guy. I'm gonna have to break down some context really fast. I worked at a movie theater that was considered a second-run movie theater. Essentially, that means that we received the movies a few months after the first-run movies got them on the release dates. This kept our tickets cheaper than the rest of town, at about $3.50 a piece. Except on Tuesdays, we actually lowered them to $1.50 each. Tuesdays were our most popular days. But we actually turned our theater into a first-run theater and had to get rid of the $1.50 Tuesdays and increase our general admission by $1. Got all that? Good. So, 6 months after we made that transition, I was working the box office on a Tuesday night. This guy comes up to me and asks for 2 tickets. I tell him the price is $9. Actually it's $3. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We actually got rid of our $1.50 Tuesdays about 6 months ago. 6 months ago? I was here last week and you guys gave me a $1.50 movie ticket. I told them I had been working there for 5 years and that I actually worked that last Tuesday and that there's no way that we would have given him a $1.50 ticket because it's not possible with our computers the way that they're programmed. He just kept saying, "Nuh-uh, that's not true!" He said he'd never come back. Shortly after, a church bought my theater. Worst movie theater customers, part 9. So the person I'm about to talk about actually has a little bit of a following on TikTok. If you're seeing this, there's a small chance that you might actually be following them. I'm not gonna say who they are, because I don't want to start drama, but... They went to my high school, no one liked them. They were very aggressive, they've had a bunch of domestic abuse charges against them in recent years. They're a disgusting person. But they also make music for 12-year-olds. Anyway, I just remember we had a horror film that was showing, and every time that there was a jump scare, him and his buddies would just be sitting in the back, and they'd stand up and go, "Garlic sauce, marinara sauce." Of course, people complained, and I went in there while they were doing it, just in the middle, and I told them to stop. Then I went to the projection booth, and I opened the window to look down, and they still did it! And we had to kick them out. He had also been kicked out for throwing popcorn at people before. Worst movie theater customers, part 10. The mother of the year. So I was working the floor crew and I got a complaint about a screaming baby. So I go into the theater, and as I'm walking around, I swear I can hear a baby crying. But it's muffled. I couldn't see a baby and I couldn't discern where it was coming from. So I left and I got my manager, and my manager went in. He actually went down each row to see where it was coming from, and he found it. A woman was holding the baby in her lap with her hand over its mouth to keep it quiet. So my manager said, "Hey, if the baby's crying, just take it into the hallway." And so she got up and she did, and the baby calmed down, and then they went back into their theater. Shortly after, more people came out complaining that the baby was crying. So I got my manager, and my manager walked into the room, and she was standing in front of the screen, and the crowd was shushing her, and she yelled, "It's a baby! It's what they do!" We kicked her out. Worst movie theater customers, part 11. The Shaman. This guy actually tried to sue us on very legitimate claims. He was going around a 90-degree corner and he ran into an employee and claims he was injured. He wanted to sue us because we didn't have a mirror disc in the corner that would let people know, like, someone is coming around. So our management promised to put one in, but they never wound up doing it. After this, he would stop at our box office all the time and he would talk to us for 45 minutes to an hour and a half, often missing his entire movie. Once, he spoke directly to me, and 3 other times he spoke to my coworker. Same exact conversation, same exact anecdotes. He would brag about threatening to sue us, ask about updates on the mirror disc. Then he would talk about how he was a shaman from the Himalayas, how he's cured cancer with his bare hands. Apparently he cured his own paralysis. He was so annoying that talking to him was our box office initiation. Worst movie theater customers, part 12. Literal busloads of children. Now, we would have a reservation system where, like, school programs would just call ahead, they'd place an order for a movie at a specific time. We'd ask them, "What sodas did you need?" And we'd have all of those pre-made by the time they got there. It was fairly easy, there were a few, like, variations in our counts, but we ultimately would get through it pretty quick. What wasn't cool was when a school showed up with 4 busloads of children, out of nowhere, with no reservation. And our manager was upset, but they processed their order anyway, on the spot. Just told them, "Don't do that again." And then made us in the concession stand make all of their trays and drink orders from scratch, within 30 minutes of their movies starting. And he and the children's leaders had the audacity to say that we were going too slow for them. Worst movie theater customers, part 13. Starbies! So you know I harp on bringing in outside food or drink all the time. But my philosophy is, I won't care unless you make me care. And this girl was just walking right up to her theater with a Starbucks cup out in the open. So I did my job and I stopped her and said, "Sorry, you're gonna have to finish that out here in the lobby before you can take it in. It's just our policy." And she tried to argue with me that she had got past the box office, the concession stand, and the ticket terror, and they didn't say anything about it. And I was just like, "Well, you didn't get past me, I'm sorry." And of course, she was like, "I'm not chugging a hot coffee." I was like, "You don't have to, just make sure you finish it out here." And so what she did was she threw the coffee away in a nearby trash can and looked back at me and said, "You owe me $5, and held out her hand. So I got a manager, and the manager talked to her at the front desk, and she saw her movie without a Starbucks cup and without getting $5. Hooray for good managers taking our side on things. Worst movie theater customers, part 14. The Tag Team. Be sure to check out the video that I'm going to immediately post right after this one for a little more information on this encounter. So at a theater I worked at, we had a no latecomers policy of 15 minutes. It was a little extreme. As soon as the doors closed, someone would stand outside and they would turn people away even if they had tickets. They'd be redirected to the box office to exchange tickets for a different time or to get a refund. So myself and a coworker were working at the box office, and at the exact same time, a family and a couple came up wanting refunds because they were late to their movie. I dealt with the family. So the family just wanted a refund on the tickets they bought online with their credit card. So I gave them the refund, told them it'll be about 3 to 5 business days before it shows up on your account. And the dad got mad. He kept saying, "I want my money tonight." And I told him he'd have to take it up with his bank or credit card company. "No, you're giving me cash in hand tonight." And my manager told him, "Basically, we've already given you the money, so if you keep demanding cash, we can call the cops, because that is attempted robbery at this point." They said, "Call the cops," and then they left. Worst movie theater customers, part 15. The tag team. Check out the video before this for more context and information on this encounter. So while I was dealing with the family, my coworker was dealing with a couple that also ran late. They ran late because the bartender at our connected bar apparently didn't tell them to get up and go into their movie. Understandable. But then they started getting mad about the refund processing taking about 3 to 5 business days. So the girl in the couple, as they were about to leave, took the drink she still had and poured it out on our counter. After everything calmed down, we started cleaning up the mess, and then my coworker looks at me and says, "Hey Bailey, is this your phone?" It was not. She had poured out her drink onto her phone that she left on the counter. And the boyfriend came back doing the walk of shame up to us. "Is there a phone up here?" "Yeah, this one covered in alcohol?" "Yeah." "There you go." "Thanks." As he was walking out, my coworker did the classic thing of, "We'll see you later." Loved him. Worst movie theater customers, part 16. Karens who call the cops. I've had people threaten to call the cops on me while I was at work before, and one person actually did. So whenever I would work the concession stand, people would get upset about the price of the food and everything, which is understandable. But quite a few of them actually said, "I ought to have you arrested." Me, the minimum wage employee who just makes the popcorn, pushes buttons, and that's it. Kind of an extreme reaction, don't you think? Well, one day I actually processed a woman's refund and told her it would be 3 to 5 business days, as is standard practice for refunds on credit cards. So she took this as me stealing her money and called the cops. The cops came in, talked to me and my manager about the situation, and once they got our side of the story, they went back to her and said, "Ma'am, don't ever call us again for this reason." And they basically told her the exact same thing that we did. Take it up with your bank or your credit card, not the minimum wage employees just doing what they're supposed to do. Duh. Worst movie theater customers, part 17. Prepaid card guy. This guy defines making the situation more difficult than it needed to be. So, he pays with a card, and I hand him his receipt that he needs to sign that I put in my register before I print the tickets. He holds the pen, he looks at the receipt, and then he puts the pen down, looks back at me, and says, "No, I'm not signing this." And I was just like, okay. And he went on to explain that he had a prepaid bank card, which meant he didn't have to sign anything, apparently. To this day, I still don't get it, and I'm sure someone in the comments is gonna explain this logic to me. Because I was new to this box office position, I didn't want to mess anything up, so I called my manager right away. My manager came down, had the situation explained to him by this guy, and even my manager didn't understand. Eventually, we just reached a compromise and just printed the ticket for him. But both of us were so confused why this guy was making a big stink about signing a receipt. Please don't be unnecessarily difficult. Worst movie theater customers, part 18. No nickname, this one's just a doozy. So I was doing a regular theater check-in, I believe it was Hotel Transylvania, sold out showing. Kids everywhere. And as I was walking down the aisle, I saw a phone that was out. So of course I'm gonna do my job and tell them to put it away. But then I got closer and saw what they were looking at. This grown man had his phone at full brightness and was watching something. Here's a hint, it rhymes with cornography. Right next to a child. The dude was actually surrounded by children. They were all watching the movie, but he was still watching this. Around kids! Like, what? And without a second thought, I came up to this guy and I said, "Hey bud, you can't be watching porn around all these kids, okay?" And I said it loud enough so that hopefully some parents heard. Put it away real quick. But just like, what? Worst movie theater customers, part 19. Bedside Betty. So, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has a wild finale that actually had to come with a seizure warning. While that scene was happening, a woman had a seizure, so we called an ambulance right away. They took care of her, and for some reason we kept the film going. I don't know why, but we at the box office were getting prepared to give out free tickets to everyone else because it was an out-of-the-norm experience that probably drew their focus away from the movie. So while this woman is being wheeled out on a stretcher, her family close behind, another woman comes right up to me and says, very loudly while pointing a finger at the woman in the stretcher, still within earshot, in front of her family, "That whole situation is very distracting. Can I get some free tickets to make up for it?" Like, what? Bedside manners are still a thing, even if you're outside of a hospital. Not to mention, her family heard it and was looking right at her and right at me. I gave her the free ticket, because we were going to do it anyway, but everyone was uncomfortable. Worst movie theater customers, part 20. Trashy Patricia. This one is gross, there's your warning. Hi, I am inside the trash can. This is the spot where you discard unwanted material. Question: if you have to vomit into a trash can, do you go in here? Or do you throw up on top of the whole trash can? Because Trashy Patricia did not make it into the whole of this trash receptacle. That's right, she threw up on top of it. She exited the theater while I watched, and we made eye contact multiple times during this exchange. She threw up on top of the trash can, looked at me, and then waddled back into her theater. At first I thought she was just going to get her family to leave. But no, later whenever I had finished cleaning that and was ready to clean the theater, I saw her walk out and she made eye contact with me as she left. You gross, dirty bitch. Worst movie theater customers, part 21. A butthole. So, I caught a guy texting on his phone in the movie theater, just one time. I did my job. I asked him, "Hey sir, I can't be on that in here. If you need to, you can just take it into the hallway." Just being as sweet and nice as I possibly could. Later, whenever his movie let out, I went in to clean the theater. So I go in, and him and I made direct eye contact as he was standing up getting ready to leave. And while he was looking at me, he took his popcorn bucket that was still full of popcorn and just turned it upside down, let it all fall onto the floor, and then just dropped the bucket and walked the other way out of the theater. No words were exchanged, just... I was just in shock. He really took me asking him to put away his phone that personally. He decided to make my life just that much more inconvenient. A butthole. Worst movie theater customers, part 22. So at my theater, we were having a showing of Spirited Away at the end of the month. So we had tickets available a few weeks out. And this guy, he really wanted to get tickets for Spirited Away. Totally okay. What's not okay is the fact that he showed up at 2 a.m. to buy these tickets. We had locked the doors like maybe 2 hours prior, and I was the only one in the building. The registers were closed, there was no money anywhere. I wouldn't have been able to sell anyway. So I go to the door and I unlock it and I hold it open and say like, "Hey sir, I'm sorry, we are closed." And he goes, "I just want to buy tickets." What part of "we are closed" do you not understand? And then he got mad. He was like, "I've been trying to buy this ticket for the past few weeks, and every time that I come here, you guys keep saying we're closed. Maybe don't come at 2 a.m. Be normal and come during operating hours." Worst movie theater customers, part 23. This guy is not a millennial. So I'm working at the box office one day, and this older gentleman rounds the corner with my manager, and he is screaming at her. She doesn't really say much, she just processes his refund for a ticket and gets him out of the theater. And before he leaves, he looks at her and goes, "You know why you're being rude to me? It's because I'm not a millennial!" And then he stormed out, leaving myself and everyone who was waiting in my ticket line speechless. Here's what happened. On our menu, we served macaroni and cheese croquettes. This guy ordered macaroni and cheese, and so our server brought him macaroni and cheese. Apparently, he wanted the croquettes. So instead of allowing the server to fix the order and go and get him croquettes, he just stood there and screamed at her, calling her all kinds of things, and eventually just told her to commit not alive. So our manager stepped in and asked him to leave. Worst movie theater customers, part 24. Fat Pig. This was a guy who got caught on his phone in a movie theater by an employee, and he decided to call this employee a fat pig. He went to multiple employees to try to complain about it, and every time the employee would explain why this guy was in the wrong for A, calling an employee a fat pig, and for being on his phone in the movie. Eventually our manager came down and talked to the guy for 45 minutes. Eventually the manager just gave him a bunch of comp tickets and just shut him up and got him walking away. Our manager basically told us that this guy just gave her his whole backstory, but also told us he's allowed to be on his phone in a movie theater because he is an on-call physician. Apparently that also excuses his behavior. He's allowed to be a jerk by being on his phone and disrupting a movie for everyone around him. He's allowed to call employees a fat pig just because he's mad that he got caught breaking the rules. Worst movie theater customers, part 25. Dirty Laundry Man. So movie theaters have a policy that we have to check bags before we send you back to your movie. The thing is, it's a fairly sexist policy. If it's a woman, we do not touch their bag. If it's a man, we search their bag. So this guy was coming in, and he was about to walk past me, and I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to just check your bag. You just gotta open it. I'm gonna shine a flashlight in there. No big deal." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "It's just our policy." "What, you think I have some guns in here or something?" "Well, now that you're acting suspicious, I need to search your bag." "You wouldn't do this to me if I were a woman." "I'm not allowed to. You can take it up with my manager, but right now I do have to search your bag." So he throws a fit, and he throws his bag on my counter, opens it, and starts wafting his hand towards me. "Smell that? That's my dirty laundry." So I shined my light, nothing was in there, and I just sent him on back. I get it's a dumb policy. Just don't be suspicious and we won't have a problem. First movie theater customers, part 26. The BBB. So we had closed for the evening, and I had locked the doors. It was about 30 minutes after the last show had started. This guy comes up and he starts rattling our doors. I go to the doors and I say, "Hey sir, I'm sorry, we are closed for the evening." He shows me his ticket, which was for the last show, but he was running late. So I told him, "I'm sorry sir, we are locked up for the evening, and even if you have a ticket, if you run late and we have locked the doors, we can't let you in." At this point, he tried to grab the door from me and barge his way in, but I slammed the door shut and I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, if you get past me, you are considered trespassing." I then offered him comp tickets, which he denied, and he stormed off to his car. That night, he left a review saying that he was going to contact the BBB. In the review, he also said that I threatened to call the cops on him. I mean, it was kind of implied, but I didn't directly threaten it. My manager saw the review and asked me what happened, and whenever I explained the situation, they were like, "Oh, that's dumb." They even responded and said, "Well, we were closed, so sorry." Lesson of the day? Closed means closed. Worst movie theater customers, part 27. I'm gonna have to go fast for this one, so stay with me. Friday night, a gentleman got locked out of our theater after we had locked our doors. We put signs on every single door that say, "If you leave, you will not be readmitted, even if you have a ticket." He stepped outside to smoke, couldn't get back in, threw a hissy fit. Our manager and security talked to him, and they let him back in. But he was apparently blaming Obama the entire time they talked. Saturday night, he came to our concession stand and wanted a refill on his popcorn. The problem was, we had closed down our concession stand and thrown our popcorn out for the evening. He then demanded that we start up the popper and make him a fresh batch of popcorn. We weren't going to do it because we had cleaned the popper already and weren't firing up for the rest of the evening. We also pointed at the sign that was in our concession stand that said the exact time we would close the concession stand and that popcorn refills would end. And he blamed Obama. The final night, Sunday, he did everything he needed to do. He smoked, and he got his popcorn refill before we closed. But while he was getting his popcorn refill, he complained to us because he had been sitting in his theater for 15 minutes watching the previews. He was mad that we advertised the showtime as 9:45, but the movie itself didn't start until 10. So he was upset with us for false advertisement. We tried to explain to him how studios require us to show previews before the movies, and we have to set a time so that more butts will be in seats to watch their advertisements. After we explained that to him, he mumbled something about Obamacare being 28 pages and too much to read. So even our Trump-supporting employees nicknamed this guy Donald Trump. Worst movie theater customers, part 28. I'm filming a White Christmas. We had a throwback screening of White Christmas during the holiday season. It sold out. Old people everywhere. And while doing a theater check, myself and another employee saw an old man holding up his phone, filming the movie. And he'd bring it down, and then he'd hold it up again. And he was just sitting in the very front row doing this. So my coworker and I got him, and we had to walk him into the hallway. The reason why is he has to open his phone and delete everything. Something y'all don't realize is that if we catch you filming something in the movie theater, we do have to ask you to delete all of it. Because not only will you get in trouble if you're found to have recorded it, we get in trouble as well. So we had to stand there and help this old man delete videos off of his little slide phone. Just like the one. Worst movie theater customers, part 29. You have no power here, Gandalf the Grey. On this day, we didn't have power in our building. A truck hit like one of the main power lines in our sector of the city, so a lot of businesses were without power for about 3 hours. Because we couldn't access any of our technology to process payments or anything, I had to stand outside with free passes and pass them out to anyone who might have already bought their tickets for the day. Like, we couldn't even operate movies. The limited power we had for backup generators, we had to put into our freezers so our food wouldn't go bad. So an old lady came up to me and I explained the situation and why we were closed for the time being. And she said,
"I'm very disappointed in this place. Every time that I come in, you guys always screw something up. This is the last straw. I'm never coming back here again."
This is a good look for me. So you heard that right. Half of the city being out of power is my fault. Love old people. Worst movie theater customers, part 30. So we had an issue with a lot of our employees getting accosted outside of work. The reason why people came up to us angry was because of our policy. We didn't allow children under the age of 6 for certain movies. This angered a lot of parents. One of our employees actually had to get security at a local Target to get people to stop harassing her while she was shopping. And even with security, they stood outside waiting for her and security had to walk her to her car. My personal experience was I was eating at a restaurant. It was breakfast, I was alone, and this guy comes up to my table and he says, "Do you know who I am?" No. "I'm the guy who you wouldn't let me take my 3-year-old to go see insert movie here." I said I was sorry that I was just enforcing the policy and doing my job, but I also pointed out that this was not an appropriate interaction. If he wanted to talk to me, he could do it while I was at work. But no, apparently he just saw me in the restaurant while he was eating and decided to come over. I flagged down a server, they got a manager, and kicked the guy out. Probably didn't tip. Worst movie theater customers, part 31. I've already kinda covered this guy before during the bad romance trend, but I never included him in my worst customer series. So here you go. So my coworker and I were doing theater checks and we saw a guy on his phone, so we did our jobs and told him, "Hey, you can't be on that, you can take it into the hallway if you really need to use it." And we step into the hallway and the guy followed us. He starts telling us how rude we were and that we have no right to actually tell him to put his cell phone away. Despite the fact that we have a bunch of signs all over the place and the pre-show even says, "Put your cell phone away and don't use it during the movie." He wants to speak with the manager, of course. So we call the manager to come down. While we're standing there waiting for the manager, this guy turns to us and says, "If I were carrying right now, this would be a totally different situation." Implying that he wanted to harm us with a weapon. So right away I tell my manager that he essentially just kind of threatened us. My manager rushes down right away and meets up with the guy. What does my manager do? He gives the guy who just threatened us free passes to come back. Worst movie theater customers, part 32. Mark Zuckerberg. So at this theater, the rated R policy was that someone had to be with a parent or legal guardian over the age of 17. Not a random person over 17, you know? So I ask him the ages, and he says, "I'm 18, they're 15. Are they your sibling?" "Nah, just a friend." So I explain the age policy, and he of course throws a fit, tells me that it's a bunch of BS, and he storms out. Pretty normal. Here's the part I don't like. I get a Facebook message request from some stranger. I'm curious, so I open it up. And it's this guy saying, "Hey, I'm sorry I freaked out on you at work the other day. I just brought my friend, we wanted to see this movie for a while. I know that there's a policy. I'm sorry, it was my bad." I appreciate the apology, but he stalked me through my Facebook profile, found where I worked, and decided to message me privately. Kinda my fault for not making it private, but still, don't do that. Worst movie theater customers, part 33. Scam likely. I hesitate to even call this person a customer. So we caught a scammer. This guy was on Facebook Marketplace in our area offering people discounted gift cards from our location. He would go into our store with a special card on his phone, we'd scan it, it would ring through, we'd transfer a certain amount of money onto a gift card and give it to him. He would then meet the buyer outside of our theater and exchange cash for the card. Basically, he just made money, didn't actually give us anything. I don't know how to explain the process. But we caught him. And he tried to do it one day, and we stopped him. Our manager was there and was like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, but you can't be doing this. We're not making any money off of this card. And if you come back here, we will call the police." And he freaked out, and then he said this, "So you're denying me my right to do my job?" Yes, you're technically soliciting on private property. He threatened to sue us, and he never did. Never saw him again. Worst movie theater customers, part 34. So as you know from my previous video, we sell gift cards, as do many businesses. So I had a line, and a guy comes up and says, "I lost my gift card, could I get a replacement?" And he holds out his credit card. And I was like, I don't think I'm allowed to, but let me get a manager up here for you. My manager comes up, I get him out of my line, start helping other people. Suddenly, a screaming match erupts between the two of them. My manager said no. The reason why he said no is because this guest didn't actually have a receipt, and our system wasn't able to backtrace credit cards beyond the day of sale. We had a lot of hand-me-downs, so we were very cheap with our tech, and the guy just kept screaming at my manager, "The customer is always right!" My manager turns around, grabs a gift card, and holds out the back, and it says right here, word for word, "We are not responsible for lost or stolen gift cards." And that's when this guy also threatened to sue us, and he stormed out. This one we actually did see the lawsuit. We won the case by showing the rules on the back of the gift card. Worst movie theater customers, part 35. This is another classic scenario of a kid not being allowed in a rated R film. All of his friends were 17, he was 16, he wasn't allowed to go in. It was just our policy. He understandably gets upset and storms outside. Then we hear the sound of glass shattering. We rush over and we see him bolting across the parking lot. And we look over and one of our poster cases has been shattered and there is blood on the ground. This kid was so mad he punched one of our movie poster holders. He damaged property, so naturally we called the cops. But before they got there, one of the employees knew the guy from school by name. So they gave the manager the name of the dude, and they looked him up on Facebook, printed out the picture that he had, and gave it to the police. They also posted that picture at the front desk saying, "This kid is banned, do not serve him ever." He was given an ultimatum by the police. He could either pay for the damages or we would press charges. He paid. Some people, man.